The Flash. The Flash pilot aired on September 20th, 1990. It's been over 30 years since it originally aired, so how well does it hold up? I would like to specify, I grew up with Smallville and beyond, so a lot of the earlier 90s, 80s, and 70s superhero stuff I saw at a much later time in life. And while I own the 90s Flash on DVD, it's been many years since I have watched it. So with the new Flash movie coming out in a few weeks, I thought I would give my brain a refresh on it, so let's get into it. Okay, so the show opens up with a shot of Central City at night with a little bit of an ominous tone. We see kids running back into their houses screaming as their mom yells not to be out when it's dark outside. And that's when we are introduced to the bad guys, called the Dark Riders, an underground biker gang who is causing mayhem, violence, and all sorts of terrible things to Central City. We are then introduced to John Wesley Shipp's Barry Allen and his family, all alive and eating at the table. I think they did a pretty good job with the casting of his family and also Iris West. There's a little tension or disconnect with Barry and his father, which feels weird to see if you read any modern Flash comics or have watched the first few seasons of the CW series. His brother, Jay Allen, has been made a leader of a special task force to take down the Dark Riders. The Dark Riders leader is named Pike, and he has a personal vendetta against Jay Allen, and he will go all in to destroy Central City and Jay. But will he be successful? And of course, we eventually get to Barry's origin of his powers. The lightning strikes him in his chemical lab. As lightning courses through his body, he has been physically altered with super speed, yada yada. Barry tries to learn how to use his newfound abilities on his own, but struggles. We also see that his metabolism allows him to eat a fridge full of food and still be hungry. Barry also has a dog. Aw, I love dogs. Once Star Labs hears that Barry has survived, they want to do further testing and studies on Barry, which leads us to the character Tina McGee, a Star Labs scientist and possible future romance for Barry. She tries to help Barry figure out his limits and help him hone in his powers. One thing leads to another, and we have Barry fighting the Dark Riders. That's pretty much the basic details of the story. I tried to avoid giving too many spoilers for anything major. Anyways, now I'm going to cover some of the things I actually really loved about this pilot. Starting with that, it feels like this could have been a part of Tim Burton's DC universe. They got Danny Elfman to do the opening and ending credits, while Shirley Walker scores mostly the rest of the series. It gives the Flash a bit of an eerie, darker tone at times, as well as a loud and triumphant superhero score when needed. Also, the show feels very mature. The actors are not teenagers, there's no kiddie drama. Barry is a man, he doesn't have an earpiece under his mask with people from Star Labs telling him what to do. We see him struggle with his girlfriend Iris West a little bit, both wanting different things, but it doesn't feel immature. The writing for this is pretty decent overall. John Wesley Shipp does a great job as Barry Allen. He has great chemistry with the other actors, especially Julio from the forensics lab and his brother Jay Allen. The special effects are honestly quite good, especially for it being over 30 years ago. There's plenty of shows that came out after that didn't look quite as good as this, Lois and Clark being one. And honestly, I still like that show, I'm just making a point. And honestly, I think the speed running in some instances is on par with early episodes of Smallville. That came out a decade later. So props to the SFX crew, they did a phenomenal job. Now let's talk about the Flash costume. When we first see Barry Allen fully suited up in the dark alley with the gold shining, man, it just looks sick. This may still be the best the Flash has ever looked in live action. Some may not like how physically imposing he looks in the suit and prefer the leaner running build, but honestly I think it works quite well for this particular series. The series also feels like it has a big budget, and that's probably because it did. The set pieces are huge and detailed, which I really appreciate. Honestly, they could have turned this into a feature film and probably made bank off of it. Give the script a tune-up and I could definitely see this doing better than it did on TV. There's minimal comedy, a few jokes here and there, and a few quips from the Flash. Nothing too cringe or nothing that will have you falling out of your seat laughing. I think one or two jokes got me to chuckle, so if you're expecting the Flash similar to the Justice League animated series, you may be a little bit let down. The soundtrack is great. Danny Elfman did a wonder with the opening and ending credits, and Shirley Walker keeps the same tone pretty well. The soundtrack on the pilot is a standout for sure. So overall, a really solid pilot worth checking out. I think for the most part, this has aged pretty well. I didn't feel bored watching it. The writing was decent enough, and the special effects for its time are great, as well as a really good score. John Wesley Shipp makes a great Barry. I'm really glad they brought him back to play Barry Allen's dad in the CW series, as well as Jay Garrick Flash, and, well, the Flash from this series. It was very cool to see him in the Flash suit again. I recommend giving this a watch if you are into the Michael Keaton Batman films for sure. It shares a similar aesthetic and tone as those films, just on TV. If you're into the more lighthearted joking Flash, I'm not sure how well you will enjoy it, but I still say give this an honest chance. Let me know down below what you think of the 90s Flash TV series.